We are not makers of history, we are made by history. Forgiveness is not an occasional act, it is a constant attitude. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. A genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. We must use time creatively in the knowledge that the time is always ripe to do right. Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. There is nothing more tragic than to find an individual bogged down in the length of life, devoid of breadth. Property is intended to serve life, and no matter how much we surround it with rights and respect, it has no personal being. It is part of the earth man walks on. It is not man. The quality, not the longevity, of one's life is what is important. Lightning makes no sound until it strikes. There can be no deep disappointment where there is not deep love. We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us, and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. We may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. Nonviolence is absolute commitment to the way of love. Love is not emotional bash. It is not empty sentimentalism. It is the active outpouring of one's whole being into the being of another. Man must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. We will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. It is not enough to say we must not wage war. It is necessary to love peace and sacrifice for it. Whatever your life's work is, do it well. A man should do his job so well that the living, the dead, and the unborn could do it no better. Everything that we see is a shadow cast by that which we do not see. No one really knows why they are alive until they know what they die for. A man who won't die for something is not fit to live. A riot is the language of the unheard. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into friend. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. We must build dikes of courage to hold back the flood of fear. There comes a time when people get tired of being pushed out of the glittering sunlight of life's July and left standing amid the piercing chill of an alpine November. Those who are not looking for happiness are the most likely to find it, because those who are searching forget that the surest way to be happy is to seek happiness for others. Never succumb to the temptation of bitterness. Carve a tunnel of hope through the dark mountain of disappointment. No person has the right to rain on your dreams. We must concentrate not merely on the negative expulsion of war, but the positive affirmation of peace. The art of acceptance is the art of making someone who has just done you a small favor wish that he might have done you a greater one. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane. 10,000 fools proclaim themselves into obscurity, while one wise man forgets himself into immortality. If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. When you are right, you cannot be too radical. When you are wrong, you cannot be too conservative. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. That old law about an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. The time is always right to do the right thing. Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. Only in the darkness can you see the stars. Let no man pull you so low as to hate him. Almost always, the creative, dedicated minority has made the world better. People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. Not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined by service. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. The ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by the bad people, but the silence over that by the good people. I have a dream that one day little black boys and girls will be holding hands with little white boys and girls. What is wrong in the world today is that the nations of the world are engaged in a bitter, colossal contest for supremacy. We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. Never forget that everything Hitler did in Germany was legal. Nonviolence is a powerful and just weapon, which cuts without wounding and ennobles the man who wields it. It is a sword that heals. Nonviolence means avoiding not only external physical violence, but also internal violence of spirit. You not only refuse to shoot a man, but you refuse to hate him. A nation or civilization that continues to produce soft-minded men purchases its own spiritual death on the installment plan. The more there are riots, the more repressive action will take place, and the more we face the danger of a right-wing takeover and eventually a fascist society. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The hope of a secure and livable world lies with disciplined nonconformists who are dedicated to justice, peace, and brotherhood. The moral arc of the universe bends at the elbow of justice. It may be true that the law cannot make a man love me, but it can keep him from lynching me, and I think that's pretty important. Law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. Mankind must put an end to war, or war will put an end to mankind. Is never voluntarily given by the oppressor, it must be demanded by the oppressed. Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself. I want to be the white man's brother, not his brother-in-law. Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. Seeing is not always believing. The soft-minded man always fears change. He feels security in the status quo, and he has an almost morbid fear of the new. For him, the greatest pain is the pain of a new idea. We cannot walk alone. He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it. The principle of self-defense, even involving weapons and bloodshed, has never been condemned, even by Gandhi. I am not interested in power for power's sake, but I'm interested in power that is moral, that is right, and that is good. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. At the center of nonviolence stands the principle of love. We must come to see that the end we seek is a society at peace with itself, a society that can live with its conscience. All progress is precarious, and the solution of one problem brings us face to face with another problem. A lie cannot live. The past is prophetic in that it asserts loudly that wars are poor chisels for carving out peaceful tomorrows. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him it is right. I came to the conclusion that there is an existential moment in your life when you must decide to speak for yourself. Nobody else can speak for you. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. If the cruelties of slavery could not stop us, the opposition we now face will surely fail. Because the goal of America is freedom, abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up with America's destiny. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. True peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. Faith is taking the first step even when you can't see the whole staircase. Every man of humane convictions must decide on the protest that best suits his convictions, but we must all protest. We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. For when people get caught up with that which is right, and they are willing to sacrifice for it, there is no stopping point short of victory. We who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. All we say to America is, be true to what you said on paper. Somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of the press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest for right.